In the summer of 1963, one of the richest men in Italy drove his sports car to the gates of the most famous car maker in the world, walked into the founder's office, and complained that the clutch kept breaking. The founder, a proud and formidable man, looked at his visitor and, as the story has been told ever since, said something close to this: "The problem is not with my cars. The problem is with the driver. Go back to your tractors and leave the building of sports cars to me." The visitor was not an ordinary farmer. He built tractors, yes, but he was a self-made millionaire who owned a garage full of the finest cars on the road. He walked out of that office humiliated, and within a matter of months, he had made a decision that would embarrass the man who insulted him for the next 60 years. He would build a better car himself. This is how Lamborghini was born, from a single sentence.
Take a seat. This meeting has one item on the agenda: how a wounded ego built the most beautiful cars the world had ever seen. Most great companies are born from a gap in a market, a clever invention, a mountain of patient research. This one was born from a bruise. A man was told, to his face, that he was a peasant playing with a toy too grand for him, and he decided that the only acceptable reply was to out-engineer the very people who had mocked him. There is a certain kind of person who, when told no, hears a dare. Ferruccio Lamborghini was that kind of person. He had already turned a country's rubble into a fortune once. Now he would spend that fortune to prove a single point: that the distance between the man who builds tractors and the man who builds legends is nothing more than the decision to begin. Today, his name rides on cars that cost more than most houses. It started with a clutch, a temper, and one very badly chosen insult. Allow me to introduce the man who simply could not let it go.
Ferruccio Lamborghini was born in 1916, the son of grape farmers on the flat farmland near Bologna in northern Italy. He cared nothing for grapes. What he loved were engines. As a boy, he took machines apart just to understand them, and the war made him an army mechanic, keeping vehicles alive with whatever scrap he could scavenge. When the war ended in 1945, Italy lay broken, and its countryside was littered with abandoned military machines. Ferruccio looked at that wreckage and saw what no one else did. Farmers were desperate for tractors, and here were thousands of engines, axles, and tires lying in the fields for the taking. In a small workshop, he began building tractors out of surplus war parts. The business caught fire. Within a decade, Lamborghini Trattori was one of the largest tractor makers in Italy, and Ferruccio was a genuinely wealthy man. So he did what wealthy Italian men of taste did. He bought fast cars, above all Ferraris, and owned several of them. And as an engineer who had built machines with his own hands, he noticed things an ordinary buyer never would. The Ferraris were magnificent, glamorous, and, in his opinion, flawed. They were crude and noisy inside. They behaved like race cars on ordinary roads, and the clutches, he felt, were too weak. He kept sending them back for repair. Then one day he decided to take his complaint straight to the top. The top was Enzo Ferrari, the founder of the marque and one of the most powerful and prideful figures in all of motorsport. In 1963, Ferruccio secured a meeting, sat down across from him, and said plainly that his cars had a clutch problem, and that he, a man who built machines for a living, could help fix it. Enzo Ferrari was not a man who accepted criticism from customers, least of all from a manufacturer of tractors. By the account Ferruccio would give for the rest of his life, Ferrari brushed him off with a line that landed like a slap. The fault, he was told, was not in the car, it was in the man driving it. Go home to your tractors, leave real cars to people who understand them. It was meant to end the conversation. Instead, it started a company. Ferruccio drove back to Sant'Agata, and by his own telling, the anger did not fade. It sharpened. He had the money. He had the factory, the machinists, the engineering instinct in his own hands. If Ferrari would not fix a clutch, then he would build a grand touring car so refined, so powerful, so quiet and comfortable and fast, that it would make Ferrari look like exactly what Enzo had just accused him of being. A man who knew engines, but not quite enough.
Let me stop the tape here, because this is the hinge of the entire story. A lesser man hears an insult and swallows it. A merely proud man hears it and fumes for a week. Ferruccio Lamborghini heard it and turned it into a factory. Notice what he did not do. He did not argue. He did not write a furious letter demanding an apology. He understood, correctly, that the only reply Enzo Ferrari would ever truly feel was a better car parked beside his own. That is the difference between wounded pride and useful pride. Wounded pride wants to be heard, useful pride wants to be proven, and a man with a fortune, a genuine talent, and a fresh grudge is one of the most dangerous forces in all of business. Enzo Ferrari, in the space of a single sentence, had just built himself a rival.
Ferruccio moved with the speed of a man with something to prove. In 1963, he founded Automobili Lamborghini and raised a gleaming modern factory in the town of Sant'Agata Bolognese, barely a short drive from Ferrari's own home ground in Maranello. The closeness was no accident. Then he did the thing that must have stung the most. He went hunting for talent inside Ferrari itself. He hired away brilliant young engineers who had trained in the Red Factory. Among them, a gifted designer who had helped create one of Ferrari's greatest racing engines. Ferruccio handed them a simple, ferocious brief. Build me a 12-cylinder engine finer than anything in Maranello. For the badge of his new company, he chose a raging bull, a nod both to his own star sign, Taurus, and to the fighting bulls of Spain. Where Ferrari had a prancing horse, Lamborghini would have a charging bull. In 1964, barely a year after the insult, the first car rolled out of the doors. The Lamborghini 350 GT, a sleek and powerful Grand Tourer with a screaming V12, and, crucially, refined and civilized in exactly the ways Ferruccio felt Ferraris were not. The motoring press took it seriously at once. The tractor man had, astonishingly, built a real car, a very good one, on his very first attempt. But the 350 GT was only the warm-up. What came next would not merely answer Enzo Ferrari. It would rewrite the rules of the fast car for everyone who came after. In the mid-1960s, a few of his young engineers began tinkering, after hours, with a wild idea. Every road car of the age carried its engine up front, over the nose. They wanted to take a massive V12 and mount it in the middle of the car, behind the driver, the way a pure racing car did, and then wrap the whole thing in a body built for the street. Ferruccio was a businessman first, and he doubted anyone would buy something so extreme, but he let them build it. In March of 1966, at the Geneva Motor Show, Lamborghini pulled the cover off the result, and the motoring world stopped breathing. It was called the Miura, named after a famous breed of Spanish fighting bull. It sat impossibly low and impossibly beautiful, its shape drawn by a young designer at the Bertoni studio, and it could reach nearly 280 kilometers an hour, making it one of the fastest road cars on the planet. Crowds swarmed the stand 3 deep. Orders flooded in from around the world, at prices that dwarfed the humble tractors that had paid for all of it. The Miura did not just beat Ferrari at the game Ferrari believed it owned. It invented a new game entirely. It is widely regarded as the first true supercar, the machine that created the whole category, and nearly every mid-engined exotic that has followed since, including the Ferraris of today, walks in its tracks. A man who had been told to go home to his tractors had, in 3 short years, built the most exciting car in the world. The insult had been answered, in 12 cylinders, at speed, in front of everyone.
Minutes recorded. Before we adjourn, one question for the room, and do leave your verdict in the comments below. Ferruccio Lamborghini always insisted he built his cars out of love of engineering, not revenge. And yet he spent the rest of his life telling the story of that insult to anyone who would listen. So I put it to you, was the greatest supercar company on earth founded on a passion for machines, or on the plain human refusal to be humiliated? And which of those two honestly gets more built in this world? Here is what I would have you carry out of this room. Somewhere, right now, someone is being told they are not good enough, that they should stay in their lane, that the big table is not set for them. Most who hear it will believe it. A rare few will go quietly away and build the Miura. The insult is free. What you choose to do with it is the whole of the story. Next meeting, a Canadian company that made the phone every president and every executive on earth could not put down. A device so addictive the world gave it a nickname, and then watched a rival, shaped like a piece of fruit, erase it from existence in 5 short years. How BlackBerry lost the world. Subscribe. Attendance is taken. Minutes recorded. Meeting adjourned.